Now,
on News Talk 105.9 WMAL.
O'Connor and Company.
Good morning. I am not Larry O'Connor. I am Derek Hunter, sitting in for a vacationing and living large Larry O'Connor with Julie Gunlock. How you doing, Julie?
I'm doing great. Good morning.
Good morning. I understand you went and saw Indiana Jones over the weekend.
I did at our producer Heather Hunter's recommendation. I went and
I know her. I know her. Yeah.
I was like, should I say something?
Yeah, look, she might not want to admit it publicly, but we are married. So I dragged her and the kids to see Indiana Jones. We'll talk about that later on because there's something wrong with society where we just seem to hate things that we don't know anything about. So we'll get into that. We got an action-packed program for you right now starting at 5:07 in the morning. This is earlier than, I think the last time I was up at 5:07, I hadn't yet gone to bed. So, what are you going to do? But I want to start off the big story right now. All in the family. The White House, it took on new meaning. Did it not? They found a little packet of cocaine over there. And you hear this story, Julie, and what's your first reaction? Like, even though Hunter's trolling around, my first reaction is, no way. No way. Right. But you got to remember, Hunter, now we don't know. It was Hunter Biden, so let's all just say we're trying to figure it out.
Right. Just a big mystery.
We don't know. It probably was because he's the only cocaine freak out there. But when you got a guy on tape talking about how he's smoking Parmesan, picking it out of the shag rug because it might be crack, you kind of go, you know what, that's suspect number one. That's suspect number one. Maybe it's the dog that bites everybody that they sort of ship off to Delaware every once in a while. Suspect number two. But I'm not really sure who else makes the list. What was your reaction when you first heard that they found cocaine?
Well, I mean, I feel like I should have a funny line here, but of course, I was, like, well, we know where that came from, and yet, what's been so funny is to listen to the media, who's just like, gosh. Goodness gracious, how could this have happened? My goodness, we really need to do it. I love the calls. There's going to be a widespread investigation, and I'm like, yes. Hey, look, let's save everyone some time here. Okay.
Okay.
We know.
I support the concept of a widespread investigation, but start with Hunter. Start with the guy with the cocaine problem that's known to everybody. Like, if you're at the golf course and there's a beheading. You maybe see what hole OJ's on first before you start checking the caddy shack. Just saying. So you might want to just go, hey, wait a second. Let that guy over there, doesn't he he's got that muscle reflex, muscle memory of the sawing. Let's just check with him. If he checks out, then we'll go down to the caddy shack. We'll check with the groundskeeper. We'll see what else is going on. With Hunter, you've got to kind of go, okay, look, you're wildly self-destructive. Because this is another part of it. Hunter filmed himself, not because he goes, well, this is really good rock. I want to remember this high, or I want to remember this obviously trafficked prostitute. So I'm going to film it. It is daring society to catch him. It's like a desperate cry for help. And, you feel bad for him because in the Biden family, you obviously know that Beau was the one. Beau was the one they cared about. And then there were the other ones, right? There was the Professor and Marianne, the first season of Gilligan's Island, rest in the theme song.
You're absolutely right. This is actually like a made-for-TV movie. Like, obviously, one son was You're totally right. It's so apparent how the family dynamic works here. There's room to feel bad for poor Hunter.
Why couldn't it have been? You know that at many points in their lives, why can't you be more like Beau? Why couldn't it have been you? Why couldn't it this, that, and the other thing? How many times do you think Hunter was brought home by the Delaware State Police?
Oh, God.
Instead of being arrested because they knew that it wouldn't stick.
And there's Joe and Beau in the foyer.
Yeah.
Like
judging. Arms folded in the most disappointing parental way.
Right.
You know what you're such a disappointment. And so that just caused him to fuel it. Beau was the one who was going to pick up the family business. He was the Attorney General of Delaware. He was going to go into this. He was the one who was probably going to become president. Yeah.
Yes.
He was probably going to become president more than Joe and carry on the family business. If you remember when Hillary Clinton lost, and thank God, praise be to God for that. When Hillary Clinton lost, The donations to the Clinton Global Initiative dried up. Remember that? Suddenly they stopped.
Yeah.
Wait, you mean Saudi Arabia, which a couple of years ago when she was running for president, gave $10 million to an organization in New York to send malaria nets to sub-Saharan Africa for some reason when they could have, I don't know, just gone to Amazon and ordered them and shipped them down there. And they suddenly stopped caring about malaria in Africa. All these major corporations, they didn't have anything left to sell. That's why there was talk about maybe Chelsea should run for mayor of New York, or maybe she should run for Congress, because they're like, please, God, let us have something else to sell, or we might have to work for a living. With the Bidens, it's the same sort of thing, except that Beau passed away tragically, and they looked at Hunter and they said, well, that's never going to work. And so Joe said, all right, fine, I'll run.
Right.
And now you've got Coke. I love how the original story, and depending on the news outlet, like the Washington Post headline, Secret Service investigating suspected cocaine found in White House. Suspected cocaine.
Right.
Because, sometimes you bring powdered sugar for your donuts, for your own donuts, in a very small baggie that you want to sprinkle on your own personal donut.
Well, let's face it. Also, sometimes you just need some anthrax.
Right.
So you just have it in your back pocket. It falls out. I mean, who among us, right?
Maybe somebody was fixing a little dent in the drywall, and after sanding it down, they meticulously cleaned up. And, and very green, the Democrats are very green. They did not want to use a big Ziploc bag or even a paper towel. They put it in this little thing probably to be recycled at a later date.
Derek, I love also that nobody's connecting to the dots of the fact that Hunter seems to be, surgically attached to his father. Camp David, Ireland, wherever the president goes, Hunter Biden's going. You can tell there is this sense of, because guess who also goes with the president? Secret Service. So there does seem to be this sense of, let's keep him close, right? When your child is misbehaving, you don't let him go in the target. You keep him close, right?
But honestly, the Secret Service has kind of been an enabler for him. They went along and they cleaned up the gun mess. They've done a lot of. You can't be that big of a degenerate and be under Secret Service protection and be there sure are a whole lot of weird, vaguely speaking English Eastern European women showing up at this $220,000 a month rental house. I wonder if they're really into chess or something. They know what's going on. They know what's going on. And nobody's judging the Secret Service. You kind of have to, as a Secret Service agent, you kind of got to give the subject of your protection leeway or you'll never gain their trust, and then they'll lose you, and you won't be able to do your job. But at a certain point, I don't know. Obviously, trafficked, possibly underage Eastern European girl number 7. There should be some kind of line where you have a conversation with Dad and go, look, we're going to keep protecting him. Right. But we can't protect him from himself. And that seems to be the biggest problem for Hunter Biden, is the man in the mirror.
He is a major problem. But I will tell you again, and I know we'll get into this later on, but the media doing somersaults here, trying to avoid what is the obvious. They're sort of generating this idea that, boy, there needs to be a widespread investigation. And, boy, who could this... where again the American public is just
probably Hunter. But let's remember back in the Clinton administration, they waived drug testing because they couldn't get anybody.
I've forgotten that.
They couldn't get enough people who didn't test positive for weed. They said, all right, fine, we won't count that anymore. Things have changed. The Democratic Party has continued to devolve down that road. So it's possible that they just hired a whole bunch of degenerates, and somebody in the middle of a meeting goes, excuse me for a second, I just got to run out for a quick bump, and they forgot their stash. But there's really only one person involved in this equation that has a history of sort of leaving a Johnny Appleseed kind of trail of their degeneracy behind them in a desperate attempt to get caught, whereas the deputy junior undersecretary of insignificance probably wants to keep their job. So that would be my guess. That's why I still lean strongly toward Hunter. Oh, man, we'll keep going with this conversation because there is a lot of uncovered ground, a lot of unsniffed tables to talk about it. But first, it is 1:15. That means it's time to check traffic and weather every 10 minutes. First on the fives, here's
WMAL.
Making sense of the news.
Live
From the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios.
Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
Need a new roof? Honor, respect, and trust your home with Valor. Visit valorhome.com.
Welcome back. Talking about the cocaine found. If you were on a White House tour or a West Wing, it had to be in a West Wing tour or a private. See, that's the thing is we're hearing it was in the West Wing or it was in the private residence. That eliminates everything except if you're a Marvel movie fan that somebody put a drone and flew a little micro drone with the packet of cocaine in there. Otherwise, it's not some rogue tourist, unless the Secret Service has really gotten lax, Julie. Because have you been on a West Wing tour before?
Gosh, not for years. I barely even remember it. But yeah, I mean, I know how these things
But
go.
it wasn't like free reign. The Secret Service.
They keep a tight rein on you, right?
Oh yeah, you can't. The
rolling
Oval
around
Office
in the
door
Lincoln
was
bedroom.
open, and you could lean in. But that's it. If you set foot on the carpet, they were going to tackle you. So if you were wanting to throw around packets of cocaine, if that were your thing. Maybe were the Republicans up there? Democrats will try. I bet you Rachel Maddow's next monologue will be about how some Republican Congress, Kevin McCarthy was up there, throwing cocaine packets around the White House in an attempt to try and lure Hunter back from the straight and narrow on which he lives. Yeah. I don't know how they cover this thing, but, Joe Biden NBC News has the story that Joe Biden doesn't want to talk about his kid. He does not want to. It says he's got the headline on NBC News: Biden warns top aides against offering him political advice against Hunter. With the subheadline: "The president's message," as one source described it, was "hands off my family." So Joe wants to treat Hunter and his problems the way Joe and the whole family treats the 4-year-old granddaughter that Hunter had with stripper. So
there's something odd too about how big a role Hunter Biden is playing right now. He was on the balcony right next to Biden and Jill last night during the fireworks, holding his granddaughter, the child he does claim is his. Yeah. There's just something in your face about this a little bit. It's aggressive. I find it a little bit strange. Again, it's almost as if Biden is like, he's off. You can't touch him. And I'm so proud of him. And here he is. And so, I don't know. I just find it a little strange, how upfront they are.
If I'm president of the United States and I have a teenager, I'm bringing him to various world events because you witness history. Let's go. I'm going to go meet with Xi Jinping. Let's go. You're going to come to China. You're going to, because, very few people get this experience. If they're 5, you probably leave them at home because they won't remember that experience. And if they're 50, you leave them at home because they should have a life of their own, theoretically. But no, maybe certainly we know they're not discussing his business because that's what Joe said. That's what I find really funny is, hey, did you ever discuss your business with your son? Never. I never had any meaningful discussion with my children in any way, shape, or form about their lives. Really, that's your defense? No. I'm a much worse father than you possibly could ever imagine. I don't care about it. He shows up with a bruised face and I don't even ask. I don't care. Yeah. I just don't care. As long as the check's clear, I don't give a damn. Yeah. But it's just weird at a certain point. You could say he's trying to maybe keep him on the straight and narrow, but with this packet being found in the White House, we see that, the old joke, you want to make God laugh, make a plan. It doesn't seem like maybe the plan that he had, if it were a plan, that it didn't really take. But I'll be curious to see, Julie, where this investigation goes. The next White House press briefing with the very historic Karine Jean-Pierre. How many questions will she be asked? Will it just be the guy from the New York Post and the guy from Fox, and then they'll move on? Or will it be a sustained, wait a second, we need some answers here? Because it's amazing what the media doesn't find when they refuse to look. Yeah. And I suspect they don't really want to look because it's one of those questions everybody knows the answers to. Yeah. Just one of them things, ladies and gentlemen. One of them things. Like I say, we're just getting started. I think it's break time. I think we've got to step away for a second. Man, we'll do that. You're listening to O'Connor and Company on WMAL. Julie Gunlock is here, and I am Derek Hunter, sitting in for a vacationing Larry O'Connor. We'll be right back. I knew this had to be played. I was disappointed that it wasn't the lead-in song, to be perfectly honest with you. But, not too many love songs to cocaine. But, Julie Gunlock, this is a good song.
There you go.
And if you... Boy, how much would you pay somebody at the Democratic National Committee to sneak this in when Joe comes out on stage? Come on, just sneak that in there.
Instead of a balloon drop, they should do a cocaine drop.
Well,
It's an idea.
That's a lot of money. I don't know what the cost
point.
is. I don't know what I remember all the movies from the 80s made it seem like it was wildly expensive. Maybe prices have come down now. As we legalize everything, maybe the Democrats need to... Where was it? Wasn't it Washington State that pretty much said legalize everything? Go crazy, go hog wild?
Just go crazy.
If they suddenly go, you know what? We're going to abandon Chicago, and we're going to have the DNC in Seattle, then you know that's why.
Yeah.
God, degenerates. We elected this guy. Imagine. Do you really think that the White House press corps is going to come in and go, we need to get some answers to this, or do you think they're just going to go, we'll wait for the Secret Service to tell us?
Honestly, this is why the show is so great, and our producer is so great, because we have James Rosen on, and we'll talk to him. He did shake up. He shook up the White House press corps the other week when he sort of started that question.
He'll get ignored, I promise you.
Oh, absolutely.
Here, we'll ignore him. All right, we've got to take a very quick break. We'll be right back. Still to come, we've got Will Hurd. He's running for president. We'll explain who Will Hurd is and what he's saying, because everyone's like, who? And all the insanity that he's been spewing. We'll be back.
WMAL-FM, Woodbridge, Washington, a Cumulus media station.
Making sense of the news.
News Talk 105.9.
New now.
On News Talk 105.9 WMAL.
O'Connor and Company.
Hold on, welcome back to O'Connor and Company. It is 5:30. By the time you hear this, 7. I'm Derek Hunter, sitting in for Larry O'Connor, along with Julie Gunlock. Coming up on the program, we got Cal Thomas coming up in the next hour. Talk about the news of the day. Denise Rucker-Krepp. She's one of those rare Democrats who are tough on crime. Talk about the latest out of the District of Columbia and what a mess that is. Mark Morano coming up in the 8 o'clock hour from Climate Depot. There's a lot of news on stop destroying the planet, everybody, with your exhales and your fireworks and stuff. And then James Rosen, the great James Rosen from Newsmax, and Beatles fanaticism we'll get into. All the news out of the White House, whatever that could be. And the latest on the Beatles AI song. Julie Gunlock, Will Hurd is running for president. Have you heard? Yeah, I know. What? Will Hurd is running for president. And you go, well, now I no longer have to go, why is Vivek Ramaswamy running for president? Because like everybody's just getting it. I think homeless guys are going to.
Have you announced yet, Derek?
Not yet. I'm waiting for the August rush. I don't want to not qualify for the first debate.
Right.
So I want to not be in, so I couldn't. I didn't. I decided not to. But after watching it, I will then decide to get in. Will Hurd is a former member of Congress from Texas, and his greatest, you really want to stump the Final Jeopardy contestants. The category is Will Hurd's greatest legislative accomplishments while in the House of Representatives. And you just sit there and you go, nobody will have an answer. Nobody will know.
What is that Jeopardy sound? Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah.
When nobody.
Sorry. The first time in history, none of the contestants even bothered to take a guess in Final Jeopardy. So there you go.
I'm not going to risk it.
He's running for president for reasons that will remain a mystery forever until we find out that he got a book deal. And then, I know how this game works.
Yes.
Then we will hear why he thinks it should be him. But he was on CNN, and it's early enough. The top-tier candidates aren't really going on CNN very often. Trump isn't going out there. DeSantis looks at them and says, I don't need to talk to you. I don't want to talk to you. And so they end up scraping up Will Hurd. So the way you do got to love the way that they try to elevate anybody who is not Donald Trump or Ron DeSantis. by putting them on CNN. Well, we got to try and prop up this guy. Come on. I think they overestimate their power. But Will Hurd was on there on Sunday with Dana Bash, and he was talking about the trans issue. Now, Dana's question is something to behold here. It's exactly what you'd expect it to be. It's framed exactly how you'd expect it to be. But all the media does is bait the hook. It's the Republican who swallows it, and the hook and the line, the sinker, the boat, and everything else. So it was. Democrats are wildly upset that Republicans are making ground by pointing out what teachers are doing to their kids in schools, and the leftist agenda of trying to put on the trans agenda on children. And so that is the very few sins on the left. This is one of them. And Dana Bash tries to frame a question in that way. Cut 3, go ahead.
Ruled in favor of a Christian web designer who said requiring her to make websites promoting same-sex marriage conflicted with her religious beliefs. In her dissent, Justice Sonia Sotomayor argued that this could open the door to private businesses discriminating, for example, against interracial marriages. You come from a mixed-race family. Do you agree with her?
Well, the majority in this opinion explained that is the case. This was about protecting a person's ability to express themselves. And I'll be frank, this decision makes me uncomfortable because we're protecting speech that I don't agree with. And I don't agree personally with an anti-LGBTQ sentiment. And but we have to be protecting the speech, even if we don't like or agree with that speech. That's a foundational element in our country.
I don't like when he says this. I don't like this decision because it's protecting speech I don't agree with. Right. But at least he goes on to say, but that's important to protect that, because that really is the only.
But this wasn't this case was not about.
No, well, that's another point. You're bringing up facts again to Will Hurd, and when you talk about Will Hurd, you have to spend 90% of your time explaining who Will Hurd is before you can get into anything.
Well, that's
else.
exactly. But that's he's very Will Hurd's no dummy. He knows exactly, just like we talked about. Why is he running? Well, book deals and CNN spots. This is exactly the kind of Republican that CNN wants. Avoiding the issue. He didn't address the issue of freedom of. This was a clear free speech case. He sort of avoided that issue and said, well, this is speech I disagree with, which it isn't. She didn't want to make a website that was anti-LGBTQ. No. She just didn't want to make a website that said things that she was against in her religion. It's completely twisted. Unless
you're willing to walk somebody down the aisle and participate in there and pretend like you're in the dog pound on the old Arsenio show, as they do whatever it is they do, unless you're willing to celebrate. It used to be celebrate diversity, and now it's celebrate diversity or else. And so unless you're willing to be an active participant.
Participate in diversity, yeah.
It's you're the problem. Well, we got one more clip of this because that was just the setup. We're putting the ball on the tee. But we'll take a quick break here. And that's a good tease. We'll get you to stick around. Because the other part is you just sit there and you go, this is why Republicans can't have nice things. This is why we can't have nice things. The Democrats, the hive mind doesn't need to be given orders. They're all on the same page automatically. And on the Republican side, there's actually diversity. Unfortunately, the thought diversity is oftentimes filled with a whole bunch of stupidity. You're listening to O'Connor and Company here. But, Julie, one of the things you can tell about the chances, at least at this moment, of the candidates running for president is who's available on holiday weekends for the Sunday shows and who isn't. Yeah.
Right.
The ones that people want to see are out in parades and doing events, and the ones hanging around the CNN green room are like, hey, I'm running too. And that brings us to Will Hurd, former congressman from Texas. We already heard him talk about he's uncomfortable with the decision in the 303 Creative case because it's anti-LGBTQ. And I'm not sure why the alphabet mafia warrants so much protection. But they do, and they get it. And so then Dana Bash was not particularly happy with that answer because it wasn't – they know what they want. You know what they want. Look, they want to create a John McCain moment where you just basically turn and fire down your own trench and you criticize Republicans. They're not interested in your criticisms of Democrats. They're not interested in anything else. They just want, look, if you don't want to throw bombs at DeSantis or Trump, then I don't know why we bothered to book you here.
Get off my set.
Exactly. That's it. And so if you're going to do the whole Republican Party, all the better. And that's what Dana Bash tries to do here in Cut 4. Go ahead.
Well, in 2019, you were one of only 8 House Republicans who voted to outlaw LGBTQ discrimination. Your message to your party at the time was, I'm paraphrasing slightly here, don't be a-hole, don't be homophobic. A lot of your Republican opponents are making LGBTQ rights a cultural flashpoint. You saw Ron DeSantis's video that his campaign tweeted Donald Trump's attacked Marxist lunatics and perverts in schools. Right. What's your message to them?
Well, my message is I wish they would focus and focus their attacks on war criminals like Vladimir Putin, not my friends in the LGBTQ community. It is 2023. We should be talking about how do we embrace our differences, because here's what I've learned as I've crisscrossed the country: we're better together. And we should be having our leaders that are encouraging that are protecting that, in order to how we use our diversity to solve the major problems that we're facing.
I feel
Thanks,
like
Oprah.
I feel like I'm driving behind a Prius in D.C., and these are just all the bumper stickers. And that's it. We're stronger together. Celebrate our diversity. Hey, you know what? The pipes are leaking. Can we get some diversity over here to fix this? Because diversity fixes all of our problems.
That's right.
I'm
Derek, this reminds me a lot of Paul Ryan, right? A couple weeks ago, saying, going on the morning program, saying, "Hey, I don't get into these culture war questions because I'm too cool for that. I like to focus on the budget, right? The deficit."
Yeah, no, that there's like 3 people in Washington D.C. got flush, and when Paul Ryan said that, they started fanning themselves. The back of their wrist went to their forehead, and they engaged their fainting couches. Oh my goodness, the budget, yes, and everybody else is going, this is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Eddie Munster, shut up, and that's just how it works. Oh, no, we don't want to talk about things that people care about. Why don't we get into Putin? Because nothing really excites voters than Putin. And boy, when Taiwan is finally invaded by China, we can get Will Hurd to send the diversity brigade over there.
I can't afford eggs, but boy, I'm glad you're focused on Putin.
Yeah,
well
what about
done.
the children who can't go out and egg people's houses because
Seriously.
the cost of eggs is too high. Childhood is being ripped right from the... Now, it is really amazing to me, because implicit in this is that Will Hurd is like cool with a kindergarten teacher explaining what they did with their throuple over the weekend to the class. And you're like, when I was a kid, Julie, tell me if it was any different when you were a kid. I had teachers, I knew their names, and that was about it. They existed in the teacher's lounge, the classroom, and the hallways, and that's it. And if you ran into one of them at the grocery store, it was like spotting Bigfoot or something. Like, Mr. Duffy's right over there. Oh, my God,
food. Mr. Duffy eats food. Ew.
What the hell? He's got a girl with him. Ew, gross. That was it. It wasn't like him walking down with some tattooed, pierced freak and their gimp trailing behind and bringing him in for show and tell. Like, come on. Give us a break. If you feel compelled to talk about your sex life with a kindergartner, you should not be allowed in the same zip code as a school.
Right.
But now they take to TikTok and confess their deepest, darkest secrets and tell everybody how they got monkeypox over the weekend.
As a parent, I'm the one with the problem for caring about this.
Yes, that's right.
I am the one.
Celebrate diversity, or else click. Put the gun. The old, what was it? National Lampoon magazine. Buy this magazine, the dog will get it with the gun to its head. That's basically the parent-teacher conferences now.
Exactly.
You bring a milk bone for the gimp, or else Junior's going to be held back for another year. Anyway. The clock tells us it's time to stop, and probably good taste and decorum does as well. We'll take a quick break. Be right back.